Chapter 117. You there? You worked hard until late last night, didn't you? How are you feeling? You look a bit tired. I'm fine. Is that a new sword you have? Quite impressive. The red string tied to the handle. Did the commander give it to you? In fact, Ydir had tied a red string which Anon had given him to the sword handle before leaving that morning. If he wanted to keep Anon's advice to always carry it, tying it there seemed the best way. It was a relief that it matched well without seeming out of the place, according to Gakane's words. The sword? Yes, I got it. The string is mine. I see. It suits you well. It makes you look incredibly strong. Thank you. As Ydir expressed his thanks, Gakane was about to say something else, but the atmosphere suddenly buzzed with activity, and everyone's gaze turned toward Kishir, who was returning. It seems the march is about to begin. I'll return to my post. See you later, Ydir. Well, Kana, who had once again turned pale with tension, clenched her fists. Gakane turned to where the Shin division and his companions gathered. Following Gakane's departing figure, Ydir unintentionally glanced in that direction and briefly exchanged a nod with Devron Hatur, who was smiling upon noticing him. After returning to the capital and receiving treatment for several days, Devron, who had completely erased traces of his torture, had started to act very friendly towards Ydir. Although he suspected the sudden friendliness was due to Devron witnessing his violet-tinged injury and sharing the secret, Ydir was relieved that he kept it well. Ydir, over here. Finally, Kishir, who had returned to where the cavalry had gathered, looked around for Ydir. Leaving Kana behind, Ydir approached him. During the short walk, a few colleagues approached him, unable to hide their excitement and tension. Ydir, you look terrific today, like a truly noble person. You too, Stiver? Stiver Renly, the Sil Division's deputy commander, with a pleasant smile, patted Ydir's shoulder. The Shin Division deputy commander, Everbeck, who had styled her long hair unusually high, also greeted him from behind. Ydir, we are headed to the 6th wall after this, right? I keep forgetting if I remembered it correctly. Yes, we are. Even if you try to run away because you don't want to, I'm confident I can find you and bring you back, so you don't have to be that nervous. At Ydir's calm response, Ever managed a smile. After passing them, Ydir finally stood in front of Kishir, whose eyes, red as germs, were staring at him. Your coat is disheveled. Looking down, he saw that his uniform's coat had slightly come undone as he had brushed past the troops. Ydir reached out to adjust it, but Kishir was quicker. His fingers, covered in white gloves, gracefully adjusted Ydir's coat and even brushed off a piece of dust. Thank you. You're welcome. The sight of the imperial family member, Duke Paleta, personally adjusting someone's coat made people murmur in surprise. Ydir couldn't bring himself to turn his gaze towards them. Regardless, Kishir just stood there, smiling. Thanks to your Highness's grace, I'm likely to be misunderstood quite a bit today. That's not too bad. For me, it is. Whichever way, isn't it better for the cavalry to be the talk of the town? Enjoy it. Lowering his gaze and flashing an elegant smile, Kishir waved towards the capital citizens who were cheering for him from afar. Instantly, the cheers grew so loud that they could have deafened him. There he is. That's Duke Paleta, the brother of His Majesty, the Emperor. Wow. Sounds like you are going deaf. How will you manage if this continues before we even start? Nathan Zuckerman, his face scrunched up amidst the roaring cheers, appeared, leading a huge white horse. It was the horse Kishir was supposed to ride during the march. It's just a wave of a hand after all. Kishe took the reins from Nathan's hand and smoothly mounted the horse. The cheers again surged, engulfing the entire street. Yether, seeing Nathan Zuckerman's expression darken even more in his proper Paleta knight attire and armor, opened his mouth. Sir Nathan, I heard you'll be accompanying me, falling on the either side of the horse. Which side do you plan on taking? Either side is fine, but since the cavalry should be most visible to the people, I'll take the left. The right was directly visible to the crowd, while the left was a spot overshadowed by Kishir and his horse. After acknowledging Nathan's choice, Yudhir stood to the right of the horse Kishir was riding. Then, as they have been trained, the remaining cavalry members started to line up behind them. The deputy commanders of each division stood at the very front, and then the members lined up in pairs. Seeing the confident look of the lined members, the crowd erupted in admiration and curiosity. Are those the people in the cavalry? They look incredibly strong. Their outfits are so cool. This year, the cavalry is more worth watching than the Imperial Knights. The continuous practice was worth it. Yudhir smiled faintly, making sure no one else could see. Considering how desperate things were when they first participated in this parade a few days ago, the situation was almost unbelievably improved. As he heard the horn being blown 3 times in the distance, Yudhir visualized the parade schedule that was about to begin today. The Imperial troops always stood at the very front of the parade, followed by the Imperial Knights and the Imperial Mages, and then the rest of the participants. The cavalry, participating for the first time this year, had yet to set off since they were at the very end, but judging by the atmosphere, it didn't seem like they would be received properly. Poorly. Of course, we worked hard to make it that way. We are about to depart. The signal came. Kishir, holding the signaling baton, spoke. Yudhir heard the sound of a cannon firing in the distance and looked back. His 330 cavalry comrades, stiff with excitement, came to view. After scanning each of their faces, Yudhir made sure everyone could see him as he curled up the corners of his mouth in a smile. Nervous? No need to be. This event isn't even as challenging as a single lap around in the training field. While the parade was a grand event, it was still a festival. There were not knights who must remain stern or soldiers, so there was no benefit to them being overly serious. In my previous life, everyone was so tense that they made many mistakes and took a bit of criticism. There was no need to be so stiff in such a place. In order to maintain an image that was fitting of them, those who were chosen based on their skills alone, regardless of their social status, a leisurely smile was best. At least that was what Yudhir had decided. Yeah, right. We run more than 10 laps around the training ground every day, so this is nothing. Kana, who had been rigid, broke into a small smile as if infected by Yudhir's rare grin. Subsequently, the other members also began to relax their stern expressions. One by one, and started to laugh. True, it's really not a big deal. It's just like taking a round to celebrate the festival. There wouldn't be a single person who would be overly scared about such a trivial matter, right? The one who was frozen was you. Just a moment ago, you were standing there with a face that said you wanted to go to the bathroom. I saw everything. Me? When did I? It was a miraculous scene. As Yudhir looked at the cavalry members who were openly smiling, a low voice came from above his head. Looks good. Turning his head, he saw Kishir holding the reins, smiling like a sun god. Cavalry? Yes. It was not a loud call, but the sight of all 330 members straightening their posture and responding at once to Yudhir's voice was truly spectacular. That's right, you are the cavalry. Kishir La-Or's voice, standing under the brilliant sunlight, echoed in everyone's ears. Move forward with pride in that fact. I will always be in front, so there is no need to worry about losing your way. Understand? Yes. As if waiting for that moment, the cannon fired once again. It was a signal for the cavalry to set off. Listening to the cheering that was loud enough to make his ears go deaf, Yudhir started to walk beside the horse Kishir was riding. His heart was pounding, but his steps were firm. In his previous life, Yudhirian Ale, as the commander of the cavalry, participated in nearly 10 parades. He was not nervous then, and he wasn't now. But there was one thing that was different from that time. The serene emotion of not being worried, yet curious about what was ahead. It was anticipation. The cavalry is about to appear soon. All right, understood. Crown Prince Kashtian La-Or, after hearing the whisper of the attendant's reports in his ear, put down the cup in his hand. The parade, which circled the entire capital, traditionally started from the end of the 7th wall and ended in the huge square inside the 5th wall. Therefore, foreigners or nobles who wanted to watch the parade sat in the secret balcony of an unusually high-end accommodation prepared within the 5th wall, from where they would view the spectacle. The place where the crown prince was seated was one such balcony. I see Duke Peleta had prepared quite meticulously. I thought we would see the amusing sight of them herding around the common born who could barely walk properly because they were frozen with fear. Sitting opposite, Duke Diarca opened his mouth as if he had been waiting, wearing a grin like an old raccoon. He too just had received a whispered report from his servant, so he knew exactly how perfectly the cavalry was performing in the parade. And that was not the sight Duke Diarca had expected.